Good morning, everybody. It's still morning. I gotta do my language before 12, so it's 11:42. Today is Indigenous Peoples Day, formerly known as Columbus Day, or to some, I guess it's still known as that. I am checking in. I wasn't feeling well all weekend and all week, and almost every day I feel like I don't feel well. I just ate some weird nuts. I was telling you guys that maybe I didn't tell you. Saturday I got at the Amish market. I had some basil, some nuts, 2 lemons, 1 orange. I thought we got some more produce. I thought one more thing. Oh, a little pumpkin. Oh, and some strawberries I need to eat. And I only have like a couple bananas left. I got all that for like $30. That seems like robbery, guys. I don't eat meat, cheese, dairy. I mean, the nuts themselves are like $9. They don't give you a receipt, so you don't even know how much anything is. This place could just charge you anything. But anyways, I did that at the Amish market. The oranges from Peru or something. So it doesn't, just because it's at the Amish market doesn't mean that they're growing it chemical free from their own greenhouse or their own garden. Some of that stuff in the spring was definitely hydroponic. That felt like it was maybe local-ish, like local as in Pennsylvania. But it is what it is. I had to get something notarized. I got it notarized, and then I came home and realized I filled out the wrong form, and I already paid for that. And I just went ahead and sent in that form because I realized the form they had assigned before did not need to be notarized for this certification for the TIPIC. That's the loan signing agent. It was just a form that says that I don't need the bond. So if anybody needs to figure out between your own certification, licensing, credentialing, and whatever licensing body, government body, and then with that, any of the third parties that are taking place, there's a lot of click here if you need to do this, and email saying go here if you need to do this, and we're not going to approve this because you need to do this, and if you didn't upload this, like upload, I didn't even see a spot to upload. So keep that in mind, everybody. If you see a bunch of go here, page not found, figure out and make sure you fill out the right paperwork. I looked at it when I was at the notary and I said, wait a second, corporation name. So I'm a doing business as. And I say, something's not right. So I already had thought something's not right. I had got there. They only opened till 1 on Saturdays, and it was about 12, like this time. We went to the Smithsonian African American Museum yesterday for my birthday. My birthday wasn't yesterday, but it's soon. And that was difficult. There was the African American Museum, Washington, D.C. One good thing was apparently on Sunday we didn't have to pay to park. If we had gone today, I don't know if we had to pay to park, and I don't know what the traffic is like when you have the workers going in Monday through Friday. So we parked outside the Treasury and Printing building, and we were across from some kind of central heater. And then it was kind of far, and we had tickets. The tickets were sold out. I had got the fine print says that at 8:15 in the morning. Oh, you know what? These blinds look like they're going to fall down. I got to talk to my partner about that, because you know how this stuff falling down and knocking bases and stuff off the windowsill. Anyways, I had gotten up and not known if we were going to actually go, because I was getting ready to do my faith-based meditation at 10 a.m. So I had seen last Friday or something, we were going to go on Friday. I said, oh, the tickets are sold out. The tickets are sold out this weekend. And it said that you can get another opening, same day tickets at 8:15 in the morning. And then from 8:15 prior to that, you can see the tickets 30 days out. So if today's the 9th of October, if I were to get on there 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, it would open up. I don't know if it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 30 days, but we'll just round it to November 9th. Or sorry, it would be 10th. So it's always that fine print. They said there was a few paid parking spots and a few closer handicap accessible only with a placard or license plate. So I was like, God, I've been feeling like I've been needing one of those. Ever since I got in that car accident, I felt like, why didn't anybody, even if I had a 3-month pass, that would have just, I could not function, and I had to function. And so we ended up walking and having to use the restroom, and the traffic had picked up, so we were like, oh no, if we get there at 2:30, is it gonna affect the tickets, because it has 30-minute increments, and then 3 p.m. was the last entry or last ticket. So I had seen that right before 2, and right at 2 there was still 2 o'clock tickets, 2:30 tickets, and 3 o'clock tickets. So I said, well, I had printed them because I'm kind of nerdy like that, and I thought if I needed to do a digital order again, because I don't know if you could change it. I didn't want to. I said, let's just get there. If I need to stand at the door and change something. So we went in, and we're trying to find a bathroom, and then went downstairs or asked for the cafe. Said, yeah, the cafe closes at 3. And I think we walked 0.3 miles. I'm not sure, because there was some parking garages that were like $11, $25, $18. And I know one of them that I had in my Google was 0.6 miles. I was like, A, we need to get there. B, that's far to walk for me, and the museum is a mile, they estimate. 3, I had to use the restroom. So I said, just find a spot, let's just go. So we were really close to the Washington Monument. And wait, I didn't see the water. Or did I? I didn't see. Anyways, so enough about that. Always read the fine print. I almost reserved a garage because I didn't know what to do. And I figured, so I kept telling my partner who was driving, I kept saying, no, let's not turn around and go home, because we were a couple minutes behind schedule, and the traffic picked up getting into the cities and going across the Bay Bridge on a Sunday going westbound. The traffic picks up. So it was supposed to be like an hour and 10 minutes. It was like 2 hours. We were supposed to leave 2 hours early, but I left like 5 or something minutes late because my student loan thing screwed me up. They're trying to say I owe just under $900 in a month, per month. And I was like, why didn't I just stay on the income-driven repayment plan that I was on, which was 0? Like, why did I try to save? Like, they added $2,000 since in a month. They added $2,000 interest. It's just a mess. I guess they're capitalizing on the interest on the consolidated loan instead of just capitalizing on the principal. What a nightmare, guys. I don't wish this on anybody. So going back to the museum, I said, let's just park. Let's just see if there's a pay parking spot on the street. And if not, I had, fumbled around with getting what do you call it, parking garage spots. It was so crowded in the city, in DC. I was forgetting, because last time we were in that area at the Washington Monument, there was hardly anybody there. I think the restrooms were open. I think it was 2020. I think it was 2019. It might have been 2020. All I know is I wore my winter coat. It was getting cold, and I had my size small Columbia orange winter coat on, and I was fat, and I couldn't fit into it, and my whole abdomen was freezing because it was hiking up. It was like so depressing. I'm like, really? You know what I mean? Like, nothing should be like that, right? I gotta check in with all my games because I'm on a kind of a weird schedule here. So, enough about that. What else happened? We get in and go to the cafe that's closing in 20 minutes. And it's like, He's like, no, let's not go to the cafe. And I was like, well, why not go to the cafe? Well, let's not go to the cafe. Oh, yeah, we don't really need to go to the cafe. But my mind's like, well, you don't need to go to the cafe, but we're already here, and we could at least check it out. And if we don't like anything, we can leave, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like thinking, if you get out of line, they had the door shut, and they had a big clump of people in line. So if we get out of line and walk away and go check something out, by the time we come back, it's going to be closed. I didn't even see if there was anywhere else to bring water. It said you could bring a reusable water bottle. I didn't have time to grab that. And I didn't try to bring in my regular water bottle because I didn't know if they were going to try to empty it out, And there was some water fountains that I had to, like, that old-fashioned way. So I just said, let's do that. So got some lunch. I had a salad with ketchup, mayonnaise, not mayonnaise, oh my God. To try to do something veganish, mustard and pepper. I really wanted to use salt, but I didn't want to eat the dextrose and all the stuff that they add to the salt. So, let's see. I don't know where my map is. The first one I wanted to go to was Jim Crow. I don't know if they even had it labeled as Jim Crow, but I wanted to go from like the middle, not necessarily slavery, but the Jim Crow laws up to 1968 with the legal segregation. I wanted to go there first. I think it was called C2, so we were downstairs, and basically the sign said C3 to C1, so I had to go from slavery, then to Jim Crow, and then we kind of missed the modern, because we thought it closed at 5. I thought it closed at 5, but it closed at 5:30. So when it was the modern, I said, well, let's leave and come back and use the bathroom before a whole bunch of people could use the bathroom, because we stood in line the women's bathroom was super crowded, so I stood in line. So it just got more and more sad, because there's things from hardly anything from history class. I don't think I remember much of anything I learned from actual school, and even my college classes, I can't remember the people of color. I mean, it's African American, so we had learned more than African American. As students shared their weekly reports, and that was only like first year when I was in a special program. So there was a lot of what's interesting. Someone told me to do a report on James McClure and McClune. I can't remember his name, and I wanted to do it on Charles Drew, and I was kind of disappointed because I didn't want to make waves, right? And what sucked is I didn't want to make waves, and I'm like, this sucks, because there's something about James, the first licensed black physician in this country. He kind of like undid his race as black, and was like, census stuff was going as white, or just some like changes. So I was trying to tell my partner, like, that's difficult, like, if maybe his kids were lighter skinned or something, but it's like they could call themselves what they want on the census. They can identify as black or white, or I don't know if you can even do multi-race, or like, why do we have to say race anyway? I'm a human, but it is what it is. So then you have to acknowledge it, right? So what's interesting is having it be, I don't know, there was some shady stuff that I thought, why are we, I don't mind recognizing them for this achievement, but why was somebody kind of going the other way, like fleeing? And people could say that about kids that are mixed race, like, oh, you're trying to have a kid with good hair, that's the only reason you dated and had babies with this guy, like this, like if someone's gonna choose, like, you could do artificial insemination, I don't know, like, it's like you're gonna choose somebody because you fell in love with someone. At least that's what I did, and was trying to like have a marriage, and I wanted to be old-fashioned and religious, and with a person. And you guys have heard me say before that not many people wanted to date me at all, and it's not just because of my race. For me, I felt like that was a hindrance, but there's definitely issues that I had that people found unattractive, like my hair breaking off all over the place, and my acne scars being so dark, and all those kind of things that just made people repulsed by me, and not even anything. I mean, I can be shy. I can have developmental disabilities where it's hard to gauge certain things socially. So I definitely can take responsibility, which I don't want to do, and it's easy to want to blame other people. Oops. But it's not like I'm blaming, it's just like telling the facts. Some people, if someone tells the facts, sometimes people say, oh, you're blaming everybody else for your problems. Like, no, I'm just stating, because I would have my friend ask these guys if they like me, and they'd give the reasons why, not knowing that I was on three-way calling with my phone muted. And it was just heartbreaking to hear the reasons why. It wasn't like, oh, you're a bad person, I don't like your behavior, or, oh, this or that. It was just literally about my looks, and people, we're trained to do our looks. We're trained to like each other because of our looks and attractiveness. And there's a invisible attraction between people, mates. There's the pheromonal attraction. There's the breeding or not breeding attraction. So I think we just really get trained on who would be a fit person and who you wouldn't be embarrassed to be with publicly, or you wouldn't be embarrassed because your kids look a certain way, and it's just really hard, like dark skin and this kind of hair, that kind of stuff. So having that museum integrate what was already known, but not in that much depth, to more depth, but super crowded. And some guy kept running into me and my partner. This old white man was like bumping into us, and I didn't know until the car ride. I said, that guy bumped in. He didn't say excuse me or anything. And my partner said, oh, it's so crowded in there, wouldn't it be hard? We almost bumped into people. I said, yeah, but we didn't. And if we would have said excuse me or sorry. And you know what I mean? There's people, you have proprioception, even if it's not working good. If you brush up against somebody, it's like, are they trying to challenge you? Like, you think you're some kind of goat trying to butt heads with me. But it was really uncomfortable, because if I get in the way of somebody, and so sometimes if I see it's a person of color, it's like, oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me. And I feel bad, because I don't want to, people want to pit people against each other, and pit women against women, pit black people against black people, like white people against black people, like Democrats against Republicans. Like, they want to do it. Job, employees against employees. Oh, he gets paid better than me. Oh, he just says, oh, it's a distraction. Like, well, you're getting $10 less per hour than that person, but your supervisor is getting $200 more per hour, and you're both more qualified than your supervisor or the big boss. Like you don't think about that. Like, your CEO, swindled their way into the top, and they get, $500,000 per hour more than you do. It's like, what's really going on? Like, just give everybody a raise and let the person who makes more, I guess, pay more taxes. I don't know. Like, it depends. They could have a bunch of kids and stuff. But when I first went into C level 3C, it was super, super quiet. I don't know when it was. Some point when I got in there, I put my ringer off, because I didn't know if it was going to be like how it was going to be. And I feel like we kind of thought it was going to close, even though they announced that the gift shop was closing. I said, wait, they didn't announce that the other thing was closing. So we saw a glimpse of like Obama picture of Obama as we walked out, and then it looked like when you walked out the exit, you were really close to that newer modern stuff, and we didn't have a chance to. I don't think we could have like run out to the bathroom and come back through the exit. I think you would have had to go through this whole decades and decades and decades, and it was escalators and stairs and ramps and all kind of stuff. And there was theaters and halls we didn't go in, so we plan on going back. We didn't even make it upstairs to the exhibition, I think. Art and exhibition, I believe. However, when I did look online, and I was really wanting to sit down, there was spots you could sit, but it was in front of these screens, and they had books towards the end, towards the middle end. They had these booklets with pictures and stuff about people. And I was like, why am I not in there? Like, it was write our own history, right? Herstory. And I was scared to sit down too. I was like, if I sit down, I might not get up. Like, it's like taking your shoes off, your boots off when you've been on your feet all day, and you feel like I don't even think I could humanly put them on unless I actually remove the laces all the way, because your feet get all swollen. So that's how I feel right now. So one of the banks had an exhibit. There was an Oprah Winfrey theater here. I don't know if anything is going on. Since we still had, a half hour. We ended up going through there, and I think what was it called, Black Future? Or something to do with future and black. And the very first part, the lighting was kind of like fake neon, and it had some pictures and stuff. But then you go in, it was weird because you go past two guards, and then you go in, and they had a lot of music. And did I see George Clinton? Was I see George Clinton there or somewhere else? Because he was all dressed up. There's a picture of a chair, Michael Jackson. I don't even remember that video. Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. So there was a lot of like futuristic type stuff. There was that Marvel character display. There was something on the floor, a light up screen that was Lovecraft Country. There was Samuel R. Delaney and Octavia Butler, which I had a hard time reading Octavia Butler in the 90s, early 2000s. Maybe just because the stories I was reading was kind of violent, and I was looking for kind of like space geek type stuff. But I will be willing to read her stuff again. There was another person who was doing art, like drawing, that reminded me of my daughter's drawing, and I forgot to get a picture with the name, so I had to look and see who that is, because that was interesting. But it was kind of like disco-y. They had something on The Wiz. When I watched The Wiz, it's got that late 70s, early 80s darkness where you have kind of the flashing lights and the sparkles, but it's like there's this darkness in the scenery and the background and the clothing, and I don't know what it is about that time, because I can think of the 80s and being like, wow, those years you could get out, go to work, get a job, and buy a house. You could buy shoes. You could, budget trips and afford gas. Well, kind of. There's a lot of cheaper gas in the 70s, but inflation and income was low, but the price of new cars was less than 10,000, So it was a kind of eerie feeling, and it was a temporary display. So I'm actually glad that I went, and I kind of was like, I don't want to go. I want to be at home. I want to be in bed. I didn't have time to make my food, blah, blah, blah. And I had to tell myself, usually when you go do something out of your comfort zone, most times you are glad you did it. You wonder why you didn't do it earlier, And so that's how I felt on the way there. But it was pretty tense with all the traffic and people driving, weaving in and out of traffic and all this just busyness. I want to say that some of the stuff from what I wanted to see first. And even looking at these shackles and these slave cabins, enslaved persons' cabins, and seeing the pictures of people trying to garden and sew and take care of the family after working as an enslaved person. I feel like it made me feel like you can't sit back. Like, your health is under so much stress from disparity to this day. Stupid stuff people tell me, text me, email me. People send me this stupid stuff that I consider highly racist. They'll send it to me, and some people look like they have good intentions, but it's really going over their head at what they're doing. And I'm like, I'm not even responding to people. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I can spend all day saying life's not fair because of my skin color, but then I'll get off that thought and say, hey, you got stuff to do. You're a human. You're hungry. Or you need to clean the bathtub, or you need to get some clothes ready for the next time you're available to do laundry when you're not making all the noise in a shared, building, But I feel like the foundation can be erased because you have to know that you could be charged with a crime you didn't commit at a higher rate. If you did commit a petty crime or do something stupid, or you could, studies show you go to jail longer. A lot of people might not even go to jail or prison at all because of who they are, what they look like, how much of a lawyer they can afford, or how much your lawyer. I've had a lawyer for car accident. I had more than one. They did not care. They did not do any of the work except for, I was like, they didn't even get the car accident. They didn't even get everything. They didn't get the car accident receipts. It was the day before that I called their law office. I was like, we're supposed to have this stuff. And I've been going to my chiropractor and calling them, and they keep saying no one's asked for the receipts. Nobody's asked for the receipts. Like we have less than 24 hours for the disposition. Like, they just didn't care. The car accident I was in, the person who was driving was white and blonde. The person who was driving the car I was in was white. The lawyer that I ended up was white. And they're all checking in on her, how she's doing. And being like, oh, buddy, and oh, this to her. She wasn't injured. Her passengers weren't injured. I'm injured permanently, or so, at least indefinitely. Nobody asked how I was doing. And it really hurt. And they didn't care to help me get out of my medical debt that I had because they ended my PIP insurance prematurely. So, anyways, this kind of stuff can go through my memories, and I can look in the mirror, look in the video camera, and see I know what I look like, basically. And I don't need a mirror because I could see my own hands. If I was blind, I don't even know. Some people I know that are blind weren't always blind. And I find that interesting as well, about the perception of who's who in a room. But seeing the Klan and the pictures of lynchings and bombed buildings and cars and people unalive in the ground. I don't even want to say these words. That was, and this is all ages. You had to. It is. I think about my grandmother, my grandma's family coming up from Georgia to Ohio, and I don't think it was during I don't know what time period it is, but maybe the teens. I don't know if they did it in the 1920s, but sometime after Grandma was born, which she was born in the early 19 teens to whatever it is, to think about some autobiographies that I've read, or some other historical. I talk about, birthing people and stories written by birthing persons from the South, and their accounts of what was really going on in their town in Virginia, in their southern towns, and the segregation and the mistreatment of people. And you can see the evils in your world, whether it's legal or not legal. And to have millions and billions of dollars across all sides of the Atlantic Ocean, paying the slave owners retributions, but the black people didn't get that. And in fact, if you were one of the people that were to so-called buy your freedom, no, you didn't want to be there, you didn't want to do the work, you didn't want to have to buy your freedom for pennies on the dollar and have your whole family separated. So one of the topics was letters written to newspapers and publications they'd have like, looking for such and such, my son or my brother or my mother, last seen here, this is their name, this is their age. And that was heartbreaking. Seeing they had 2 cabins in there, enslaved person's cabin, and I'm like there's a picture of some, and my partner's grandfather had some of those cabins on his property. I guess he tore down, and everybody who sells this land is getting wealthy because of land that was taken from Native Americans and land that was managed, or they built wealth off African slaves, enslaved persons. It's so hard to know that a lot of the lands that I see around here are waterfront properties, and they are going to have that land that's worth millions of dollars, houses that they could turn farmland into homes for their kids and their stepkids to have a legacy and be able to. I mean, I don't really want to put a lien on my house or something, but you could say I have collateral. You could say, hey, I don't have a mortgage or a rent payment, so I'm eligible for this car loan or for this credit because my debt to income ratio is a certain way. So there's other museums and facilities pre-September 11th, 2001, because my family lives really close. Some of my family members live really close to DC. We spent a lot of my growing up going into the Capitol, going into the White House, and Lincoln Memorial. I don't remember actually going to Washington Monument. I don't remember going inside, but walking up and down the street, I told my partner, when we got there, I heard and saw one ice cream truck, and when I came out the exit, there was all these food trucks that looked pretty much the same, including ice cream trucks, and I was just like, wow. Like, God, I should have checked to see if they had some raw food somewhere around there. But I had a salad with mustard and an apple and a bottle of water. It was depressing. It was stressful. If you're a certain race, you could deal with your own struggle, and my neighbors that are from Africa, immigrated, they don't have this. They have a whole nother reason that they're refugees. That's very hard, but they don't have that. You don't understand. You didn't go to school. Like most people I knew that were already adults when they got here, they did not go to school. They did not know how to read or write, and they don't really look at PBS. Say, oh, this is how blacks in America were treated. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like home of the free. Coming here, there's a land of opportunity, not bogged down by the PTSD of current times or of the 70s and the 80s and your relatives being born before, during, and after 68 to 69. And again, seeing that olden days, work the jobs you can, and you're getting dirty, and you're working multiple jobs, and like I see white people, and they say, "Oh, my grandma didn't work. My grandma did work. She took care of the house. She took care of the kids." That's hard work, but because the husband was able to be able to get paid well enough to afford to take care of the household with one income, even if they had side hustles and stuff. I don't know one of my ancestors or relatives where both the husband and wife were not working. Like, I don't even. And it was, when I go to poor neighborhoods, so-called poorer neighborhoods, you call them poorer neighborhoods, you can call them ghettos and slums. When I go there, the price of gas is higher, the price of food's higher, the price of housing is higher, the taxes when you own are higher, buying a car is more expensive, insuring all your stuff is more expensive, and it looks slummy because people are ignored. Like when I went to Chinatown the first time, maybe the only time, it was trashed. It wasn't trash, there was trash piled up. When I went to other parts of Manhattan, where it wasn't a bunch of people of color running businesses, the trash was picked up, and it wasn't stacked up, stinking all over the place. And maybe they had different disposal areas, but this was definitely very noticeable as soon as I went into Chinatown. Chinatown in Portland is kind of crazy as well. When I worked for the county and I was supposed to be doing a job that was going to use my Bachelor of Science, it ended up that the first and pretty much only thing they taught me was how to pick up trash. So it was a neighborhood where people are very spoiled, entitled. They will brag about where they live. They'll tell people, stay out of my village or out of my city or off my streets. You don't belong here. But there's public areas where people fish, and they use those areas too to put boats in and out of water, and it is trashed. And there's just so much trash that they hire people like me to go pick up the trash off the ground. And they have a ton of trash cans, like every 50 feet or every 25 feet, one after another, after another, after another. And on the piers, they have one after another. So people fill those trash cans, dump their trash. The most I saw was white people making a mess. White people from the neighborhoods dumping their home trash into our trash cans with their kids, our grandkids, balloons from their birthday and table settings. And it's not like, oh, I went fishing and I'm throwing away, my paper towels that I wipe my hands on now. You know what I mean? So they pay people to go up and down the street with a little grabber to pick up every can, every cigarette butt, they told me I was doing too much because I was apparently actually doing the job. The supervisor told me other people work there longer. They don't want to look bad because someone else is doing a better job, and it's noticeable. But I was like, they told me to do it. I'm getting paid my $12 an hour during COVID to handle cups and forks and half-eaten food and stuff that has germs all over it. So people just go to the restaurants and they dump their baby diaper, they dump their food and their drinks just in the parking lot. Just leave it there. Like, open up their car door and just dump it out. And so you can go to inner city where there's blacks or Latinos, say, oh, it looks messy here. It's not necessarily that people are dumping their trash. It's that they're not hiring people to pick up the trash. And have you been in a place where there's a dumpster where they don't come? I lived in housing programs that recycling in the dumpster weren't emptied. I asked the supervisor or manager, didn't you say this was empty 3 times a week? It's like, I can recognize my trash in there and my recycling. It hasn't been emptied in 2 weeks. And then your trash blows all over the place. Or your neighbors put a trash bag out and the birds peck at it and everything goes all over. And so the difference is, some people I saw actually throwing their trash on the ground, and they were not dark-skinned people. But the same place had people picking up, and I was picking up for restaurants. That's not even, I was like, this restaurant needs to pay us or give the workers like access to the bathroom and a free drink, like a free water or juice or something. Like, in my mind, that I was like, this is not right. Your workers get paid. They should clean up after your tenants, after your restaurant and bar patrons. It was absolutely disgusting. Besides the actually more disgusting, needles, dirty diapers, toilet paper, and other things that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. And again, I saw there was one person of color I did see that looked suspicious about their cups, their coffee cups, and that was one person that I tried to actually get them to stop. And what sucks is emptying a garbage can sucks, but I'm stupid. I bring my trash home and then I don't always take it out, and then I was like, oh, maybe I have a receipt I need in there or something. And then my car is filthy. People are like, oh, your car's a mess. I was like, what about the people that throw their trash out the highway, out the window? So there's a disparity, knowing that where I worked, there was multiple people supposed to every day pick up trash across the entire county and cut the grass regularly, which would cut up a lot of the trash because they'd be going over aluminum cans and bottles and stuff, versus areas that are not, nobody's being paid, no prisoners are going up and down, no work release people are going up and down the street picking up every piece of trash. It's like, oh, this neighborhood looks clean, but look at this neighborhood. Like, everybody has the same amount of trash, and the so-called darker and poorer neighborhoods, the rent is, again, oftentimes higher. And I actually didn't know that until somebody from out of town in Portland told me one of the desired neighborhoods. They said, oh, we chose. I said, wow, you moved there. Everybody wants to move there. They're like, what? They said, this is the cheapest place. We got on Craigslist and got online, and that was the cheapest place. What? So that low-income housing that we are in, where they don't do anything and stuff breaks and the refrigerator doesn't work for 10 years and we live right on the highway and they do inspections without notice and neighbors are threatening to kill each other and they don't do anything, like, oh, for $2,400? And like, versus your, $800 for a 2-bedroom with the pool and all this weight rooms and lounges with fireplaces, versus, oh, I could have bought a 2,100 square foot house with 2.5 baths 10 or 15 years prior, and I would have been paying a total of $800 a month or less. My friend was paying $400 a month for her mortgage of that kind of house. So when we think about the people walking up and down the street living in hotels, and they're paying $2,000 a month to live in a hotel room with no kitchen, may not even have a bathtub, they gotta pay to do laundry. I mean, I used to go into regular hotels and they'd have a microwave and a refrigerator or something, a sink out of the bathroom. And when I go to hotels, I don't even see anything unless I asked. Last time I went to a hotel, I had to ask for a refrigerator. Like, it was the Hilton. I was like, oh my, I didn't even come with the refrigerator. It had a cooler, and I put my food in there, and I called and I said, my cooler's not working. My food is not cold. And it was just like it was like literally like a cooler, like you put your stuff in an insulated lunchbox kind of thing. And it wasn't like a refrigerator. And I don't even think we had access to ice. I might have put ice in it. I don't remember. It was not what I thought it was going to be, and I got overcharged. Make sure I count that off on my taxes. I'm counting it all off. But I had fun doing something for my birthday. I had fun taking a chance. I don't like taking a chance on eating things like mustard because it says spices at the end. You don't know what that could be. It could be just straight up onion and stuff, but it could be something that has corn or whatever in it. My stress level has gone up because of my student loans were income driven, and now it's gone up to like 900, and it's like really terrifying because I'm struggling with my income, and my checks that I receive are getting smaller and smaller from Blue Cross Blue Shield. They are getting smaller and smaller every check I get, and I'm starting to get scared. I've heard of someone do like a 2-hour new patient intake and get like $1.60 from insurance, like $1.60. Could you imagine paying your doctor that? And think of what the insurance company is saying when they pay physician $1.60 for 2 hours. New patients all should pay more. It is. I mean, and then I go back and complain about all this interest on my student loan, over $2,000 in 1 month of interest. And I don't even think that's all of it. Maybe $3,000 since a couple of days ago. It went up $2,000 or $3,000 in a few days. I'm like, what? I thought it was like 6,500, but yeah, I am in a world of mess. So I was crying about it this morning, and the struggle that I've seen my folks go through because of racism, and growing up in black communities, except for that first home my mom was in. It's like, I mean, my parents didn't tell me that when I was younger, but when I became an adult after my mom died, my dad did tell me that there's a lot of things that other people took credit for at his work, and he even knew, his supervisors knew that he was the reason that things were really good, and these jobs, it'd be like, I've cleaned up at my work for like 2-3 hours after a storm, and then I've had someone else take credit for it. And I said, nuh-uh, you were not here yesterday. I did that. And like they weren't there, and they had the audacity to tell me, look what I did. Oh my God, I cleaned up the landing after a storm. It was tons and tons of... I actually started crying and called my partner. He was going to come down there and help me because it was a nightmare. And this guy and the supervisor didn't answer, and then the next day one guy and the guy who took credit came and finished what I did, just the rest a little bit more. I have pictures, and I know for a while that this is what happens to me at work. They're gonna tell the supervisor, look what I did. Oh, Mia, she didn't do anything. Like I had to take pictures every time I cleaned up trash, every time I saw the before and after. Some of it they told us to take pictures because people complained, but the same people that complain are the same people throwing their McDonald's wrappers and their cigarette butts and wrappers out the window. And it's like, if you guys put your trash in your home trash can, then you don't have to complain that we didn't pick up after you because you're a drunken slob. Like, you shouldn't even be driving under that. You shouldn't be throwing beer cans out the window. I'm not the regular police or sheriff, but you shouldn't be driving around throwing beer cans and bottles out your window 7 days a week. The same brand of cigarettes, the same beer bottles, the same beer cans, the same Wawa coffee cups, like the same prophylactics that you use, and the same diapers when somebody dumps their home trash and the animals tear up your bag. Like, I recognize the patterns, the same dump flowers and party stuff. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But thinking of my parents saying, yeah, well, I didn't get this position, or I didn't get this raise. Other people took credit, even though the boss called me directly and said, I know you did a good job, click. But then they gave the raise and the job to somebody else that's not as dark as I am. And that's really hard, because people will say, hey, there's billion black people in this profession and in this job and in this position, and they're driving a nice car, they own a home, and not all of them have their hair straightened or their nails done or their makeup or their nice bodies because they work out at the gym. Not all of them have the Barbie body. A lot do, but there's just something wrong with me that also includes abilities and disabilities and the traumas caused by other people that makes it more difficult. So to end this video, I wanted to do a shout out to Big Super living in Arizona. I watched about 2 or 3 of those videos today from 2 to 4 years ago. I don't know if I watched any other ones. So he was trying to find an apartment in Arizona, some lower end prices to higher end prices, to one that was a transitional housing. They got 2 meals and free rent. The lady tried to say it was, did you say it was a couple months they were supposed to be in and out, but she had been there for longer than that, and people trying to at least think about getting off of drugs. And I was appreciative of seeing that these places had some rent to help people get up off the ground outside, but it looked like just trash. It looked like people were kind of homeless in the hallways is what it looked like, and that makes it really difficult. People kept saying, oh, they should put in gardens and stuff. Like, I think that one video where the guy had these people get the thing that takes the air even in the desert and it turns it into water, that would be an excellent idea, because I don't think you're living in that transitional housing. I feel like the last thing they want is a bigger water bill because you're watering a bunch of garden. That's just my opinion. But this other machine could be gifted or bought on a grant, and then you actually, that's a lot of work. So they could start small, like give them window container gardens with herbs in them. I guess if you could use it for the meals that they provide, because I don't think they had kitchens. But yeah, I saw a couple of them where the Big Super was able to go into the apartments, and one lady said she had a felony, and I was really thinking good thoughts for her, and she had some issues with her partner, having some background issues and background check issues, and all through the comments, people are saying she's blaming everybody else, someone else's fault, this and this and this. And I did not see that at all in her. And I think it was because she said that she was the only Mexican in the courtroom, and that Mexican American, and she got a felony charge for bad checks. And people are saying she's pulling the race card, she's blaming everybody else. But she had needed money. She said she sold her laptop, and a lady wrote a check, and it was a bad check. And that she went to try to cash the check, and they end up busting down her door and arresting her and throwing her in prison. And in my mind, that ain't right. that ain't right. Somebody played her and got away with not giving the money and got her computer. So in my mind, they should have gone after the person who wrote the bad check. But I mean, I don't know. So in my mind, I feel like that's not blaming other people. When you blame somebody else. That person did you wrong. And you did some slip-ups in the past and it made it hard for you to get housing. The other video I watched, they had a GoFundMe, and the person was current, so the 3rd they needed some rent, maybe the 6th, just last week, and her twin adults, other adult child, and another one of them had a daughter within the last few weeks or months, and she needed a lot of money. Her place was $2,400. It was big. The apartment was pretty big, and she makes more than her rent, and her adults are chipping in, and she was white, people paid money for her, and I know how it is. She got scholarships to go to school, and she makes about $3,000 a month, but she needed money for other things, electric bill, I don't know, internet bill and all that, car insurance and car registration. So that pit of not paying insurance, having stuff, or registration insurance, having stuff get payday loans, having stuff get impounded, losing a bunch of vehicles that you're paying on. So I can understand she's in that kind of trap of desperations. But it was interesting that she was making $3,000, and she had her adult family members working for 2 different apartments, but people still give her thousands of dollars. So it's interesting for me when I lost my job after I got in a car accident, and I already missed a bunch of work, didn't get any sick pay for that because I took bad advice from somebody. My supervisor said, oh, don't do the sick pay, because when you ask the car insurance, they'll pay for it. And that was really bad. I should have done the sick pay. It was a nightmare. I never got that. I never got a penny from that. Sickening, guys. And the lawyer's like, oh, I can't do that because we would need 10 years of health insurance, or health records. In my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I hardly went to the doctor. I'm waiting for like allergies. Like, go ahead and he didn't want to do the work. I told you he didn't even ask for the receipts from when you do the claim, they need to have a total of all the receipts. And some of the places I turned in the paperwork for auto accident, and they didn't bill auto accident, they billed me when I left. And I'm just like, this is not right. And I couldn't, of course, get a hold of billing, and I was like, this is for auto accident. Like, oh no, you just have to pay it. And I was like, I've never been using the car accident insurance for healthcare, so I was a sucker at paying all this stuff, which was good in a way, because it didn't go to my regular insurance, because they can pull a claim on that and say, we're not responsible. The person who hit you, their insurance is responsible. So that's a whole nother thing. You can get into debt and have to owe thousands and thousands and thousands, because they're going to charge a lot of money for those appointments. So the way I see it is, let go, let God, have hope for the future. I think I got in a bad mood when I saw how much that one lady made and that her kids were working, and I understand that the higher your rent is and your late fees were $500, I can relate with some of the stuff about desperation and trying to live out in the car and all that with 2 little kids. But I even wrote in the comments before I saw her GoFundMe, I said, oh, I can relate with her story. I did a GoFundMe and received 0. I hope she receives money. And she received money, and I'm grateful that she did, because I want to see people not be desperate to pick the first apartment because you struggle so much to get an apartment, or you lose it because you're in the hospital having surgery for days, and you lose your job over that, you lose your home, you lose your cars. This lady said she had to put her kids in a crisis nursery because she didn't have anyone to watch her kids when she had these medical surgeries. And I remember having medical surgeries and having a housing program, so I got a couple of days help with the kids, but it was an absolute nightmare. It was absolute, should not be open. They should go to jail for child endangerment place. Like, it's a nightmare. So what your kids go through, the parent, my kid's dad didn't help. The child support would not help me one bit. And until the very end, until my son was almost 18, I finally started getting somewhere, and it just broke my heart that your family and your kids' dads lets you, like, especially for me, I was married for 10 years, they just let you live in your car or your tent or sleep on someone's floor, go hungry for dinner. Like, you end up in a situation where people say, you shouldn't have had kids if you couldn't afford it. It's like, hey, I went to school studying science and pre-medicine. I was on my way to getting done nursing. Went back to school for pre-med. When I finished nursing the 2 children, when my son was 2 or 3, went back to school so I can continue the education and to become a doctor, and everything fell apart. And people could say, aren't you in recovery? Yeah, I'm in recovery. And people criticize me for being in recovery. The same people that criticized me for being in recovery had their own addictions, alcoholism, drug addictions, legal drug addictions in some cases. And that's the stuff that I saw. And that was mainly from people in my church. You know, your doctors get yell at you for being in recovery for 10 years and being overweight, but your doctor weighs 2 times more than you and just got a Dewey for driving intoxicated. You know what I mean? It's like, those people's words made me feel bad, and then you find out later that they're dealing with their own stuff, and they're mad because I didn't pick up and drink and use, and that I'm still struggling with it. But they're living a successful life with a house in the suburbs and a good paying job and income generating properties, and being able to put their kids through school and buy nice cars. They're able to do that, so they're gonna look at me and make me feel shame and guilt and say, oh, that you're lazy. Like, so this last lady was named Blossom, I think, and she had SSI for bipolar and PTSD or ADHD. And what's interesting is not everybody is able to get the SSI, and the person's able to get a monthly check, have their housing paid for, and have the utilities paid for. And then they have money, people group up around them because they're using drugs that aren't prescribed. And I'm not judging them on that, but it's interesting that when I tried to get some help or needed a food box or needed energy assistance, something, they want to deny me. Saying, oh, we're not giving it to you. But I qualify. I'm filling out the forms. Well, too bad, too bad, too bad. Oh, I'm here before the food pantry closed. Too bad, too bad, too bad. So some people get a lot and get a lot and get a lot, and they can maintain that lifestyle. And other people desperately wanted to earn a living wage and put their kids to school without going into debt. And then one injury, one car accident, one divorce, one, thing. Even with my dad claiming us for taxes, so not allowing me to get my tax return, which I was planning on doing to start paying down my student loan debt. If I had paid off, I could have paid off a few of the loans. People laid me off of a job because someone else lies, because the person who lies went to a non-accredited school, and because they did that, they're not eligible to take the state or national exam. So they basically made up lies about everybody and got everybody else laid off or caused them to quit. And somebody came up and told me, watch out for that person. Months before it happened, that person sees you as a threat because you have the credentials to work here. Because you went to a accredited program. It cost a lot. And they didn't. And if they lose the job, if they get laid off, they're not going to be able to work anywhere else. But they're gonna target you. Someone already told me, they said document everything, get a journal, write it down. I thought they were tripping out. I thought they were like too hyper, like. And sure enough, months later, maybe a year, 2 years later, everything fell apart with everybody but that person. Wow. So take things with a grain of salt. The one thing that I held on to hope, despite my body and my mind needing to take a sabbatical, walking out, being able to walk to the car and drive home while still alive, the car made it, we made it. I feel like I was able to walk out and not be an enslaved person. And the way some of this political stuff is going, between the wars and people undoing civil rights and human rights and race stuff, history, people trying to undo what people work so hard for, I felt like just for today, I can go home and eat these cashews and drink my water and figure out how to use this Mod Podge, which says you need the acrylic sealant. And then B, no matter how much my body aches, no matter how my back and my chiropractor messing up my hip joint, nobody taking me seriously about this oppressive noise, this ringing in my ears that won't stop ever. God help me, when it stops, I will sing praises of hallelujah. I'll sing in advance, okay? Higher power. And knowing that that's really disruptive to my work, but knowing that I can push stop here and just start getting the paperwork out. It's a holiday in many offices, so I'm not getting some of the stuff that I signed up to do. It's not available, and I'll probably I got a bunch of appointments tomorrow, so I'll probably plan on getting back to the notary for undone business and maybe redoing the correct paperwork for that other thing by Wednesday. So give me something to look forward to, something I gotta pay more money to do, pay down at least the minimum payment on my credit card, and then go at it. Just let yourself rest, let yourself eat nutritious foods. I like juicing, which I don't really do. I got a whole bunch of carrots that are probably gone bad. Drinking water, getting some calories, and getting a bunch of movement and cleaning up. That's a bare necessity. Like sleeping, get that stuff, because those people in those hotels, the people living in their vans, the people with or without kids, in and out of foster care, being adopted out because they had tested dirty on their UA or something when their kid was born, all these different things, they still need to breathe and drink fluids and sleep. The humans need human things, no matter if we're living in our multi-million-dollar waterfront properties, or heck, I could be living in a cabin on a creek somewhere that I paid $4,000 for. You never know which kind of blessings come to your life if that's what you want. You can do the best to keep mice from running around in there and those other little pests that get into your flour and stuff. So life is what you make it, and you can't always make it, and you can say you did the best you can with what you had, and you might not have done the best you can, but you can look back and reflect, and you can say, what can I do now? If you're like me and you wanted to cry and carry on with somebody else after watching the Gaza news and worrying about your own health and like this excruciating back pain, I don't even know what's going on with my body right now, but again, what can you do? If you wash one dish and you have 100 that need to be done, now you have 99. And if you dirty up 2 more, then hey, that other one's still clean and you saw some progress. And you have to chip away at it. Ask for help. That's one of the worst things for me. And when I ask, I wait until I'm near desperation or desperate. And oftentimes when I do that, I get no help from anybody. with the same people that I asked for help, and they blow me off, or they say they're going to do something and they don't. If it's not help, even if it's just going for a walk. How many people have blown me off when I make time in my schedule and didn't schedule stuff around it and got dressed for it and didn't do anything with my family, and then they just blow you off, and you're like, really? Yeah, I could go for the walk, on the walk by myself, but I've already gone on a walk today, you know. So what do you do when you feel like there's some people, somehow they get help? Every little dust particle in their air, oh, please help me, oh, I need money, oh, I need this, they get it. They're good, they're charming, they have a certain look and a certain voice and a certain way. And some people really could use their uncle or their relative to throw down $50, $100 in the bank account. There's like this one lady that I prayed for all these people. Some of the time she needed to pay her rent, she was only $100 off, and they won't accept any of the rent. And then they had into the third, I think, to pay it in full, and then with the $500 late fee, and then an added late fee and taxes on that every day. And then they only had like until the 6th or something to pay it. So I'm praying for these people, and I hope you guys can send happy vibes and prayers to each other and to some of these people like me that try to just share different experiences, whether they're our own or others. And just know that for me, a lot of people do not watch this video to the end, but I like to say there's people that are thinking they're alone, or that people don't understand them, or there's people that criticize you when they don't know the whole story. You just have to hang in there, band together, and know that you're not alone. Peace to you all.